So we're delving into a subject today. We're starting it today and continuing with it because there's so many facets of this, of why so many of us are experiencing ill health. Yes, ill health. If you think, as I do, that we are born for health, for to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, if you think that the universe is a very generous and loving universe, as I do, then why are we also unhealthy? Isn't health our birthright? I think yes, health is our birthright. I think that under the proper circumstances, that we would all flourish here in these bodies on this earth, which is just stunning in all its beauty and its magnificence and in all of the most enriching gifts that it gives us on a daily basis. So what are these gifts? Look at this. If we realize that this is what the earth offers up to us, doesn't this look healthy, wealthy, and vibrant? If we're eating this, ought we not to be experiencing health galore on a really high level? Shouldn't our vibrational energies be matching the vibrational energies of these foods? Yes, but most of us are not eating like this. Most of us do not eat a bowl of this for breakfast in the mornings. Most of us do not eat something like this for lunch. So I think most people will agree with me that there are certain things that they know that creates ill health. One is what we're partaking into our bodies as food, using things that are not food, that are food-like substances that we've become to accept as food, which are overly processed and sometimes even created in labs. Does food come from a lab? No, no, no. What else is contributing to us being so ill? Most people will agree, stress. Stress. And there are many different stressors. We know that there are a huge multitude of stressors. But the truth of the matter is, they only become stressors for us if we allow it. So if we're not in a place of mindfulness, a place of consciousness, where we do not get stressed out and feel anxiety from events, people, places, things, circumstances, they will not become stressors. Then there are those of us who live in perpetual fear, and therefore we're stressed all the time. To me and for me, fear is one of the biggest stressors and the main reason why we are suffering so much from ill health rather than radiant, robust health to which we all, every one of us, can have, and to which most people aspire. Not everyone, but most people. Poor sleep is another one, and there are myriad reasons for that, and we will going into that. I'll be doing a series of these, and we'll be going into each and every one of these. Just going over the list today that I've made, and please add your own below. Heavy metals. Most of us are ingesting heavy metals without even realizing it, and I'm going to be going more into that. EMF exposure. Are you aware of the EMF exposure, the electromagnetic frequency exposures? A lot of us are using toxic cleaning products to wash our hair, wash our skin, wash our clothes, wash the very things we sleep on, and of course, wash to do the laundry and wash the dishes. We'll be going into that in greater detail in another one of these elegantly raw tidbits. I'm just going through the list today. Some of us are exposed and have experienced an overabuse of antibiotics. We also are eating and drinking a lot of pasteurized things, especially dairy, and a lot of foods. I hesitate to say food because they're not food once they're processed, but a lot of processing in what we call food. A lot of refined grains, a lot of unhealed trauma. When we do not heal, we have two paths: the path of healing, the path of continuing the trauma. So we find new ways to bring the trauma. And one of those, the main ones, is always illness. Always. That's the most direct way of bringing in the trauma. If we do not heal it, we do not go for it. If we decide we don't want to deal with it, then be prepared for illness, whether it's physical level, mental, or emotional, or all of the above. We may as well deal with it. One of the problems we have that leads to a lot of illness, a tremendous amount of illness, and this is the one that most people are going to be screaming at me about. I know this is vegetable oils. People don't want to hear this. So, another reason why some of us are so ill is the lack of time in nature, with nature, around nature, submerged in nature. We are cut off from who we are. We are living part of nature, an integral part of nature. Some of us have very limited movement patterns. We sit most of the day, then we come home, we drop on the sofa or bed or the floor at night. We do not have enough movement. Some people call it exercise. I just say movement. I'm a movement therapist and a movement analyst, and I just see a tremendous lack of movement, including in our children. We're giving them these animated devices, which they can just sit down or lie down and play and use, rather than playing with their arms, their shoulders, their neck, their legs, their bodies, going outdoors into nature and playing there. And if you say, what nature? I live in a slum, or I live in a ghetto, or I live in a concrete jungle. Just being out in the sun. And you say, there's no sun right now. It's cloudy. There's still sun. You might not see the rays of the sun coming through, but it is. And so it's important for these children and for you yourself to be outdoors. And if you say, I'm outdoors a lot, I commute to work 3 hours a day. You are still in a vehicle, whether it's the bus, and yes, you might be walking part of the way, which is actually much better than if you were in a car the whole time, yes. But we need to find more ways to be in nature. A lot of us are sick from a very invisible cause of most sicknesses, and that is mold and mildew. Think about it. It exists in our homes and in our fridge, some of them, sometimes, because some people's fridge, when I go to clean it out, because I work with clients where I go and clean out their fridge and their pantry and everything else, and we redo the kitchen into a non-toxic kitchen, and it's very often that I find mold growing there. One of the most toxic substances is mold, and we can get extremely sick from it. We actually breathe it in. Do you know that? You don't have to be eating it. It's just the fact that it exists. You are breathing it in, and it's very destructive to our respiratory system. Then there's the overuse of pharmaceuticals, or some of us even just the use of it. Which leads to that, and the antibiotics lead to poor gut health. Very important gut health. For some of us, it's poor oral hygiene. We're not taking care of the fact that we have a mouth, and we think it's just to shove things in. No, it's not. This is where health begins, is in the mouth, and we'll be going into more details about that. Smoking, the amount of pollution that we inhale, whether it's from cigarettes or tobacco or anything else that people smoke, whether it's from the pollution from the mufflers, whether it's from cars, transportation, whether it's from coal production, all the different things that we're doing to ravage the earth, and that really comes back to us in the form of pollution. Whether it's because we're drinking soda pops, which have nothing to do with nutrition. They don't look anything like this, but yet we are indulging in them. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's the lack of minerals in our food, the lack of oxygen in our foods. You know, anything that's green has chlorophyll and helps supply oxygen and helps the body to utilize oxygen. Whether it's the incredible consumption that is going on with sugar. I'm not talking about sugars like in glucose, glycogen. We need that. This is the only form that we should be eating. Anything that's sweet is in plants, and especially in fruits. This is the kind of sweetener that we need. Then we have people are actually using air fresheners. I don't get it. And it's toxic. These so-called air fresheners are toxic. Better to get air filters instead. Please stop using these air fresheners. If the air is stale or smelly, there's a reason why. Look at the cause of it, look at the reason behind it, and stop looking at fixing the symptoms and fix the reason. Instead, it might actually be mold. And then we also use a lot of toxic makeup and toxic skin products as well. We wash our bodies in toxicity with all the skin stuff that we use. And of course, there is the huge one, herbicides, fungicides, and pesticides. The radon that's buried in the soil, the DDT buried in the soil, and the soil being eroded by all of this things from agriculture that are now used in agriculture, especially one called Roundup. It's so important to know all of these, and we will be looking into this in greater detail on these elegantly raw tidbits as we go along. We're going to be dissecting each one by one and looking at the solutions, because the solutions are what we need. So I am leaving you here asking you to please be mindful of everything that you do, feel, think, and say, because we're also going to be looking at our thought patterns or language skills and how that makes us sick or keeps us ill or prevents us from being well. So thank you for tuning in today. From my heart to yours, I wish you healing, wellness,